Good morning, everybody. Eee! There is nothing more exhilarating than pressing that go live button. Good morning. Good morning. This is the wake up call. You're at the right place. My name is Lynn Dupuis. Good morning, everybody who's watching on the replay, because yesterday we hit 50 views. And this is my first time. And it was an intro, and I'm pretty excited. So, good morning, Megan. Good morning, Numbers Girl. I am thrilled to be here again. I got to tell you, doing this every day is going to be daunting. But I hope that you'll be here to listen. I hope that you will learn things. And I hope that I will be able to share enough material on a day to day basis for you, which I think I have enough. I've been doing this for 20 some years. My vision and my mission is to have better boards. My mission is by creating better board members. I want you all to feel um, confident and efficient in effective in the work that you do. So this is why I started the wake up call yesterday. I alluded to why we called it the wake up call. And during a team meeting this summer, we had a retreat, and we looked at what we should call the wake up call, what we should call this thing that we're doing here, and because I like to have a cup of coffee every morning and think about this stuff and plan and look at how I'm going to, it's like my little Zen moment. It's my Oasis challenge moment. Um, Having something in the morning was really important. And then we thought the wake up call would be a fantastic name. Also, a little play on words for this is your wake up call. If you don't have good governance, you might be in a shaky situation and your organization might be in some trouble or not running optimally. So we thought the play on words on the wake up call was a great idea. So thanks for being there. Thanks for participating. Say hi in the chat if you are there. I see the Numbers Girl and Megan are still there. There's some other people. I don't know who's there. So if you're lurking, say hi to me. Also, this is going to be like coffee chat in the morning. So I want to take it easy on everybody. A little thing that happened yesterday, I got to tell you. I had the opportunity to hear a first mix of my husband. So my husband's a singer-songwriter, Ed Landry, and I got an opportunity to hear the first mix of the next upcoming album, and I was a wreck. I was mush. I bawled. We listened to it in the car always because that's the best listening system. And this album is nothing like he usually writes in French. This one was in English. Oh my God, I'm just so excited. I'm just so excited to hear this. So that's what happened last night. We got that opportunity to listen. My little life it has fascinating aspects with artists and singer songwriters in my family. So you'll hear all about that too, right here on the Wake Up Call. But we're here to talk about good governance today. So, uh, I heard Fred. Yes, Fred is actually Ed. Aujourd'hui, ça promet d'être intéressant. On embarque dans le sujet. Yes, exactly. We're talking about the role of good governance in nonprofit organizations. So, good governance as I mentioned yesterday, we don't always think about the board when we're talking about nonprofit organizations. We think about their projects and about the funding and about the fundraising and about the policies or the workers or the volunteers, things like that. But the board that sits at the top of the organization and sets the vision and has an oversight mission, I guess, or that's their duty, their job. Oversight, strategic direction, making sure that decisions are well made, setting the stage for what's to come in the organization. Um, you know, Overseeing policies and HR and ensuring stability, financial stability, and projects, and making sure that the executive director is doing its job. It's a big job. It's a big job. And you're there, sitting there as a volunteer, and you have to make these decisions. And for me, it's very daunting. Joining boards at a young age. So I was around in my 20s, early 20s when I started this. And to be honest, I thought it was a committee. I thought I was helping to plan some things. I wasn't exactly sure what I was getting into. And as I grew older and wiser, and as I got more board experience, I started realizing that there were risks to this job, and there were pressures, and there were opportunities for growth, and there were also a lot of big decisions that were weighing on me. But I was a volunteer. How was I supposed to know? And how was I supposed to make sure? So, good governance is going to enable these volunteers in these positions to make the right decisions. And if you are sitting at a board and you don't have all of the information, then you are at risk of making bad decisions, or you're feeling stressed or anxious, or you're sitting there and you're glazing off. You're rubber stamping. Rubber stamping is something that we call in the industry just saying yes to everything, and you're not really asking any questions. And things go through, and motions go through, and then you go and realize that things are not running optimally in your organization. Rubber stamping is very dangerous. It's important for us to have the knowledge and the ability to question things, and the confidence to question things. And I have sat at big boards, I have sat at smaller boards, and I've been a consultant at many boards, and not always knowing what to ask is super daunting. And in the upcoming episodes, again, I speak for about 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day. I'm going to play around with the time a little bit, but I'm not going to have the opportunity to give you everything in one day. But I will be preparing a list of questions that are really important to ensure that the governance that you're getting involved in is good, and that you are assuming this as a board member. Because don't forget, you are a board member, you're a volunteer board member, but a lot can weigh on that. So and I will also give you, as we go along here, um, throughout the days and weeks. By the way, have you seen the calendar? I printed it out. It's not in color. I need color versions of this. It would be so cute, maybe back here. I don't know. But if you don't have the calendar, the link is in right at the beginning of the chat there. You can go get that calendar. But you'll see that I'll be providing you with free tools. So this week here, we're going to be talking about how you too can be a board member. So if you're not currently a board member, or if you are a board member and you'd like to venture into new boards, I'm going to give you some tools in the next, like this week and next week, on how you can evaluate where you'd want to do volunteerism and where you would want to be a board member, and how you can align the things that you enjoy with the volunteering. So the role of good governance in nonprofits is oversight. So, you oversee the operations, but you don't do the operations. You have to make sure that you're delegating your strategic vision and the things that you said you would do to the executive director or the CEO. And you have to make sure that those things are being implemented, operationalized within the organization. Essentially, that's your that's a big part of what you do, is that you set the boundaries, set the limitations, set the expectations, and then you send it off, and then you expect them to implement these things. Um, and expect them is a big word. Again, if you're a new volunteer on the board, you're kind of paying attention at the beginning. You're probably not sure about what's going on. If you're an old, a more experienced board member, you might, have the ability to identify what's happening here. And if you are on a board, okay, and you are not seeing this, like the strategic plan, like every organization should have a strategic plan, but not every organization operationalizes it. So if you have a strategic plan and you're like, yes, we have a vision, we have a mission, we read it every meeting. Maybe you don't. That's a good strategy, by the way, if you're reading your mission every time. But if you are in an organization that states that it has a strategic plan, but you're meeting after meeting after meeting, you're not seeing that come back up to you, and no one is accountable for how this is getting done, then you might want to think about that. You might want to bring that up. Hey, do we have a strategic plan? How do we know that this is happening? How do we know if we're achieving the results? And then you get into it, by the time you kind of realize this, you get into the next cycle of strategic planning, and you're asking yourself, well, did we accomplish this? I'm not sure. Let's look at what we've done. And then you're setting new objectives and new things without really understanding where you've been. So it's hard to plan where you're going without understanding where you've been. And so that is really important. So if you're sitting at a board and you know you have a strategic plan, and you're not monitoring the strategic plan, then that is a red flag for me. And you might want to bring that up at your board, and at your next meeting or at your committee. This is also important at a committee. If you're on a parent committee or any other kind of committee and you set some objectives, how do you know you're reaching those objectives? Are you even checking back on this? And how are you evaluating? So that's super important. Um, the CEO and the executive director have a lot on their plate. They are overseeing the whole organization, and they are working with management and HR and service delivery. And some executive directors are doing it all. They are the janitor, they are the person on the field, they are the person answering the phone. There are all kinds of organizations. And the CEO and the or executive director have to also work collaboratively with the board and make sure that the information that they set out is collected, reported on, and brought back to the board. So there's a lot happening there. And if the board is not well informed, and if you don't have those questions that you can pinpoint, or that you can ask, or that you don't feel confident and you feel like you're missing some of the answers or some of the information, and you're like, well, how does this happen? Are you being effective as an executive director? Uh, is the staff producing the results that we need to achieve the results that we told ourselves that we were going to achieve in a strategic plan? So there are a lot of those elements of good governance that are for me important at the a common to have common understanding. So if you all have common understanding of what you're trying to achieve, that will be a first step. Understanding our roles and responsibilities, and then going into the details of what you're trying to achieve. Um, so having a second set of eyes for that ED and that executive director or CEO, having a second set of eyes on the board is very important. If you are collecting and have access to the right information, and you can then ask those questions, get the information, and see, monitor how you're achieving, how you're uh, attaining success within the organization. And then you, as a board member, will feel more confident and engaged in promoting that organization. If you're part of a nonprofit organization and you're not quite sure what's happening within the organization, I would take a step back and think about that. And if you're not able to give key messages, if somebody asks you, hey, you're on that board, and you're not able to say, well, yes, I am, and they're doing amazing things, and this is how they're achieving their success, and this is what they're accomplishing, and this is why we're proud to be on the board, then you might want to consider asking the right questions there at that level. I'm going to talk about real examples here. I have done some consultancy work with just about all kinds and types and sizes of organizations. And I have sat at a table with people where I have asked them what their vision and mission was. And everybody at the table had a different answer for me. So that is a red flag for me. And that is like the beginning of good governance. All right. Good governance starts with common understanding. And if everybody around the table has different messaging, we're not even getting into risk. We're not even getting into financials. We're not even getting into policies, procedures, bylaws, all of that. We're talking about the vision and the mission of the organization and knowing that and knowing why you're sitting around the table. It's very important. And if that idea is blurry for you, that's another red flag. um, there's a lot of things like, and again, that's the base work of what we're trying to achieve. And then you get into risk. If the organization is not reviewing their policies, their finances, their risk and audits, there are some opportunities, or not opportunities per se, but risks there when it comes to the organization. And we'll be talking about that. Tomorrow we have a good governance practices and how you can ensure that you're doing the right thing when it comes to those bigger questions. Today we did a very quick introduction to what could be good governance and what could not be good governance. I feel like our time is very limited, and I'm going to have to be a lot more succinct. But I'm also pondering if we should make this longer. So, write in the chat if you have comments related to how much information we're getting or not getting. Let me know. Um, so again, on Thursday, I'm going to be providing a tool on just understanding what type of boards you would like to be on, and then and understanding how you can be of service as a board member if you're looking to be a board member, and how we're going to get into the weeds of how you can ensure that you're doing a good job as a board member. So I hope it gives you some reflective, some things to ponder. Suzanne is saying so on point. Just because the vision and mission statements are read does not mean everyone understands them, and it's so true. We become like a little bit of a, like it becomes just a thing that rolls off of our tongues, and then we get into coffee chat, or we get into the lunch that we're about to have, or we get into what projects that we're working on, and we forget about how this vision and mission statement and how the areas of focus that you're working on in the strategic plan are supposed to be influencing the things that you're doing. It's a skill to know how to ask questions and when to ask it. It really is. Those are topics. I'm going to take note right now of those topics, because an agenda, knowing what an agenda is, a good meeting. These are all topics that we're going to be able to get into over and over again in the wake up call and talk about that. And I see that, for me, this is an opportunity to talk governance, because what ends up happening is we don't have an opportunity to talk about these topics very much. And for me, it, keeping it a secret, or making it mysterious, or keeping it under the radar, but continuously engaging and recruiting volunteers without really telling them what everything is about, is a risk to the organizations, and it's not of service to anyone. So your ED and CEO will struggle, right? So if you're a CEO or an executive and you have a board and you're struggling to make them understand, that's there's a common understanding there, or there's an opportunity for training and education. And so this is what we offer at L&D Solutions all the time. What is good governance? What is a strategic plan? How do we ensure that we understand what policies, bylaws, articles of incorporation, all of those fun things, finance. Um, we offer that training. So that is something that we are actively doing. I've been doing it for a long time. And so, okay, we've got some questions here. We've got some comments. It's so powerful when board members mindfully choose which board they sit on rather than blindly accepting an invitation. Yes, that responsibility is twofold. So, an organization that is blindly recruiting and doesn't have like a skills matrix or is recruiting because they have vacancies all the time and they, oh, just come, it'll be a great supper, and it's just once a month, and it'll be fine. You don't have to understand, just sit there and listen, and you'll get it eventually. That is not a recruiting strategy. We're going to talk a lot about that. Megan, exactly, son. Understanding, also ensuring common definitions and also common interpretations. Yes, yes, because not everybody interprets everything the same way. And there is a responsibility there, whether it's the chair or whether it's everybody sitting at the table or the executive director, ensuring common understanding is key. And that's what I like to do in my sessions. So I speak at with a language that is raw, that is accessible, and that we all understand each other when we're trying to discuss these things. Because when somebody's talking to me about complicated programs or verbiage that is too high level, my brain just escapes. And yes, I agree that having a professional in a suit come talk to you about governance is super important. Professional education or professional development in governance is super important. But also, if you're sitting there in that professional development and you're not understanding, then it's worth nothing. And I hope to give an opportunity to all of you to listen and to try to understand, and to understand at the end of the day. Because if we're not understanding and we're just trying to take in all of the governance training that we can, it's not going to work. So, three things. I'm going to close it off today. We are at 22 minutes. I'm already going over. I think this is going to become a little bit like 20 to 30 minutes. We talked about the role of governance. So, oversight, strategic planning, looking at risk, helping the ED, being that second pair of eyes on things. We talked about real examples, about knowing what is your vision, mission, and common understanding. We talked about also um, making sure that we have the right questions that we can ask. And that's going to be one of the, I'm going to create a list, and you're going to have access to that. So I'm going to be uh, uh, giving away things as we go along, and that's going to be one of them, 100%. The other thing that I do is I read and listen to podcasts, and that too. I'm going to be sharing all of that as we go along. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for sharing. If you're listening to this on the rebroadcast, thanks for listening as well. And subscribe and like and all of that good stuff. Thanks for being there. And we'll see you tomorrow.